Welcome to Dice Doodles, the show where I am a slave to my dice and do exactly as they say, at least in regards to character design. The dice tell us what to draw based on my Dice Doodle map, and we design the character in Procreate and then animate it in Moho Pro animation software. Today we have been commanded to draw a Robot Canada Goose using 3 sharp triangles. Let's go. The first thing we're going to do is make our color palette. In the spirit of randomly generated ideas, I use an app called Coolors to generate color palettes. And for this series, I'm just going to go with whatever generates first. In the Coolors app, I take a screenshot of the color palette and then I import it into Procreate using the Add Photo tool in the wrench menu on the top left-hand side. For each color in the Coolors generated color palette, I also add one lighter and one darker color in the same color swatch to give me a few more options. We are going to begin today by sketching out the basic shapes and seeing if I can make a goose out of them. As an aside, I am terrible at knowing how big to start or where to start on a page based on the bigness I'm going for, so I'm grateful for Procreate and other drawing apps' ability to resize things on the fly. It's occurring to me at this point that although I'm Canadian and see Canada geese almost every day, and more so throughout the year now as global warming worsens, I don't really know what a goose looks like. Like, I could pick one out of a police lineup, and trust me, they all belong in jail. Bunch of no-good cobra chickens with hearts as black as tar and a sole desire to harm you and eat your sandwich. Anyway, I'm going to use a screenshot of a Google image search as a reference. You can add reference images in Procreate by tapping the wrench menu and going to Canvas and clicking Reference. At first, it will show you a live window of your canvas, but if you tap Image and Import Image, it will open your camera roll on your iPad. Just make sure you delete any weird fan art of Sonic the Hedgehog you have on there beforehand if you're recording yourself drawing and posting it on the internet, or everyone will know what weird things you're into. Not me though. I deleted all my weird Sonic fan art well in advance. So I'm really glad I called up the reference because I totally forgot that Canada geese have this awesome white chin strap, and that's going to make my design stand out even more. It probably won't be white against black, but the shapes and color variation will be there. I also didn't know that geese's necks don't go straight up like a giraffe, but have a really curvy S-like quality to them that I will use to help beef up my shape language. Now, you may have known both the chin strap and the curvy necks thing and may think I'm an idiot for not noticing them, but we can't all have Sherlock Holmesian superpowers of observation, okay? Some of us are distracted by our weird Sonic fan art. I should stop talking about that. I am not a mechanically minded person, so one of the hardest things for me to draw is any kind of machine and like how to make it look machiney. So it's going to take some trial and error for me to get all the plates and bolts and screws and gears and servos just right. For the wing, I'm going to match the shape of the body but break it up a bit and create more of a diamond shaped wing than the basic triangle that the body is made of. And here we are once again being ecstatic that digital art allows me to copy and paste aspects of my drawing so I can maintain better consistency as I copy and paste the front leg to be the back leg. For the back leg, I'm going to move it over slightly but also shrink it just a little bit to give it some perspective with the leg in the foreground. Again, I don't understand machines, so I don't know where bolts should go or how many to put. For the neck/head joining and the wing/body joining, I'm going to draw these weird gear servo things. I've been drawing them on robots for years, thinking I stole them from the anime Battle Angel, but recently I looked at the Battle Angel art and theirs looks way better, so I guess I invented these? Art is full of happy accidents. I figured the neck would need more flexibility, so I'm adding lines, almost like the lines on those gooseneck metal shower hoses. Hey, do you think they call them that because of robot geese? No, that would be foolish. I'm not sure if in my mind this part of the neck is also metal or some kind of wire or flexible tubing, but we'll figure that out in the coloring stage. I'm also adding this little quarter wheel swivel thing where the back of the neck meets the body, but that's just some machine flourish. Real geese don't have gear parts sticking out of their back. I assume, again, we've established I don't know what geese look like, but I bet it would help a robot goose to angle its neck forward and backwards. For the wings, I'm going to have these metal blade-like feathers. They're not very aerodynamic, but it seems to work for Archangel and the X-Men, so who am I to judge? That one is not a servo gear. It's supposed to be like a light, but I realized it looks stupid there, so I'm not going to do it. The legs are not machiny enough, so I'm going to go back over and add a gap between the shin, do birds have shins, and the foot. I'm also going to add another tiny servo gear here. It's time to ink and color. For these types of drawings, I don't like using black outlines, so I try and use darker versions of whatever color I want that part of the character to be. So I'm going to go with this dark purpley color for the main outline, which I will switch up for other parts. I lower the opacity on my sketch layer so that I can really see the difference between the sketch and what I'm putting over top. It's important to remember to draw on the correct layer. I started inking over top of the sketch layer, but luckily the opacity was lowered and I caught it quickly. To do the outline, I'm using the dry ink brush, which is one of Procreate's default ink brushes in the brush menu. I find inking is a bit more challenging than sketching because I can draw a straight line in a sketch by trying 3 or 4 times, and over the course of those tries, a straight line will be implied, but when inking you actually have to draw a straight line. I try and keep my wrist as still as possible and use the whole rest of my arm to form the shape of the line. I'm swapping out the outline colors to something lighter so that I can contrast the main part of the drawing with the metal plate representing the white chin strap which we would see on a real Canada Goose. I sound like the Dean from Community, much like a real goose would have. And I'm using a third outline color for the servo gear thingy just to break up the monotony of the overall head neck colors. A Canada Goose's body is brown colored, so I'm going to do a darker brown instead of a dark purple for the outline here. I also draw on multiple layers and then merge them together if I realize the end of one line should actually be under the color of a different line. The main secret to art and animation is to do whatever works to get the results you want, short of plagiarism and generative AI, which is just plagiarism with extra steps. I went with yellow for the feet despite the fact that Canada geese actually have brownish black feet, but I really wanted to make sure that all the colors weren't just melding together, and a good way to do that is to have accent colors on certain parts of your character or drawing. Now I'm using the freehand select tool to get an outline for the basic shape of the body because I'm going to add a solid color fill on a layer underneath my line art that I can use to paint on top of. There's 2 reasons to do this. One is to help maintain an overall color theme, but the other is because the brushes I will be using to texture the goose don't always draw in full opacity, and I want to make sure the goose isn't partly see-through at the end. You can access the selection tool by tapping the S-shaped icon at the top menu and then tapping freehand when the bottom menu pops up. I picked a very light base color for the goose because I wanted it as close to white as I could get while still staying within my color palette. But if I'm doing a digital painting, I will often choose a darker color base so that it can serve as my shadow and I can build my surface lighting on top of it. The brush I'm using to color and texture my character is called Eagle Hawk. It's also a default Procreate brush and can be found in the drawing tab, which is under the inking tab in your brush library. I may go outside the lines a bit, but that's okay because I want this to have more of a rough or childish quality to it because I think it will add to the charm when we animate it. This gray pink? I might be colorblind. This gray purple color really feels like a great option for the metal plating. I guess it turned out those lines on the neck are made of metal after all. I'm going for a beigey brown color for the wings to try and stay true to the natural coloring of the Canada Goose, but I'm not going to be strict about natural coloring because my main concern is to show robot over goose. For the servos, I'm going with a slightly darker color than the coloring on the belly and chin strap, which in reality would be white, but we are going for more of a cream color, and we're going with yellow feet because, as I said before, I want to break up the color and accent the rest of it a bit. For the shading, I'm going to stick with the Eagle Hawk brush. I generally pick a darker or cooler color to draw on the multiply blending mode on a lowered opacity. I'm really going for basic shading. Basically, the bottom part of any object in the drawing is going to be shaded and the top part of any object in the drawing will be lit. For the highlights, I pick a lighter color and typically draw on either the add, overlay, or color dodge blending mode on a lowered opacity. And again, for this drawing, I'm going super simple, and anything I consider to be on the top of an object will get a highlight. I should also mention that not only is the layer I'm drawing on a lowered opacity, but my brush is also on a lowered opacity. This allows me to slowly layer in texture with every stroke. Now what we're going to do is add an overall color gradient across the goose's body from the bottom up. If you typically use Photoshop, you can use the gradient tool for this. Procreate doesn't have that tool, so there's some ways to work around it. If you're happy with how the color, light, and shadows look, then merge them together on one layer. You can keep the line art on its own layer or merge it depending on if you want it to be affected by the gradient. Create a new layer as a clipping mask. Using the square select tool, create a selection box where the top of the box is where you want the middle of the gradient to be. The bottom of the box should be well below your character. Pick the color you want to use for your gradient and use the color fill tool to fill the box. Change the blending mode on the layer to multiply and lower the opacity to between 40 and 60%. Click the magic wand icon on the top left menu and go down to either Gaussian blur or motion blur. With motion blur, you will need to be directionally specific. Blur until you get the desired effect. Feel free to mess with the opacity or use the warp tool to move the gradient around a bit. This next part I do just because I think it looks cool, but I take the original inserted image of our color palette and I use the distort tool to make it the size of the screen without any of the words, widget icons, or anything else like that. Then I use Gaussian blur and take it up to about 60%. After that, I take the halftone filter and crank it up to 100. Once you're done, you sign your name and there you have it. The Robot Goose your dice gods commanded you to create. Let's export it as a PNG and bring it into Moho so we can animate it.
Which is what we are going to start doing next week. So tune in then. We'll start building out the shapes and layer hierarchy in Moho Pro so that we can properly rig and animate
The Robot Goose.
If you like this video, hit like and subscribe. I'll be posting a new Dice Doodles video every Friday with new characters as the dice demands, as well as my other animations you can see throughout the week, like the mundane life of John Orkman and the Eldritch Cuties. Have a great week, and may all of your rolls be crits.